social development, amongst others.
We're happy to announce today that both the federal government and the organized labor have agreed on an increase on the 62,000 naira minimum wage.
Join
Ayodeji Ajishope
and
Adedamola Lafenwa
on from the Dailies every weekday from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. on Solutions 93.9 FM as they dive into the headlines with in-depth analysis and feedback from you on different stories from the national dailies. Start your day by gaining fresh perspectives, uncovering the story behind the story, and join the conversation. Because your voice matters. From the dailies, the conversation never stops.
All right, it's another beautiful Monday morning, and interestingly, today is day 104 in the year 2025, and I officially welcome you to From the Dailies on Solutions and 93.9 FM, the very first for the week. Today is the 14th day in the month of April 2025. My name is Adedamola Lafenwa, and peradventure, this is your first time on the program From the Dailies. This is where we get to take you through the front stories, let me say the front pages of newspapers. I have Comrade Ayodeji Ajishope live in the studio with me this beautiful Monday morning. A beautiful morning to you, Comrade.
Good morning to you, my dear comrade brother. It's another Monday morning.
I hope you had a very restful weekend.
Yes, I did.
Because I remember you were on an assignment.
Yes, I did. In fact,
Friday.
that was what compelled me.
And I know
it
was a hectic
It
session.
was a hectic one.
Yeah, I know.
And I had to quickly reconfigure myself for a restful weekend.
Definitely. All right, let's go straight to the papers we have this morning. I have the Vanguard, the Guardian newspaper, the Nation newspaper, the Nigerian Tribune, and of course the Punch newspaper. My first shot is at the Vanguard newspaper, and looking at the front page of the Vanguard newspaper this Monday morning, I have this one saying, Army decries poor Igbo youth's enlistment in military service. Page 51 of the Vanguard has that story. And this is coming from Naxima. Tariff, economic instability, job losses, forex inflow loom. Naxima. And riders, FD needs to turn adversity to opportunity, adopt viable, affordable, homegrown democracy. NPA should forget 15% fee hike. Man. And to the biggest story on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper, U.S. court order on Tinubu, nothing new in FBI DEA records on drug case. Presidency. Apparently, it's a response to the pronouncement by the U.S. court, saying that a particular report on a drug case relating to our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should be made public.
It's not going away.
It's not going away. And the right under that caption says, court didn't indict president. Away from that, 2027, Tinubu moves to halt APC members' defection from CPC bloc. Sources. We still have a CPC bloc in the APC. Yeah. So Tinubu is making moves to make sure that those members of that bloc do not defect to other parties.
We place emphasis on this. I call them tendencies. That's what they are. But we prefer to call them either factions or blocs.
No.
There are tendencies.
Okay, when we get there, we'll talk more on that when we get to political stories. Now, Soyinka slams NBC for banning Idris Abdul Karim's song. I remember that ever since that, I think you and Dapo mentioned it earlier on, that ever since the NBC placed a ban on that song, that's about the second time Idris Abdul Karim's song will be banned. The last one was during Nigerian Jaga Jaga in 2004 during the Obasanjo's tenure. Now this one came out, Tell Your Papa, and it has been banned. But ever since then, I noticed that that song has generated more streams because people now became curious, wanted to know what was the content, what is the content of the song that made NBC to ban. And like you said, the man is smiling to banks. Okay, now, and Soyinka has also reacted to that. We'll talk about that in the course of the program. Still taking stories on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Palm Sunday, Khan condemns Plateau killings, demands justice. PDP governors meet over Fubara as Tompolo assures of his return.
Non-state actor.
Non-state actor, definitely. Interesting. When Tompolo is now assuring Nigerians that don't worry, Fubara is coming back. There's more to what we see with our eyes. Now, moving away from the Vanguard newspaper, let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. SEC bans on registered digital asset exchange online forex platforms. And another one, air passengers volume drops amid biting economy. Interesting. The biggest story on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, how Supreme Court rulings landed PDP LP in further crisis. This is one story we need to talk about.
I think I sent the LP's Supreme Court story to you.
Yeah, and the riders, Abure remains in charge. LP spokesman, the same Abure, Julius Abure, that the Supreme Court has already removed, and are still taking riders as Apapa Nenadi lay claims. Okay, interesting. We have about three chairpersons or chairmen, Apapa, Abure, Nenadi, to one party. Interesting. One party, three national chairmen. PDP in limbo as members await decision on Anyawu Ude Okoye. Now, our internal mechanisms will decide way forward. Ologunagba. Now, moving away from that, Tell Your Papa. Soyinka slams Tinubu's government wants Idris Abdul Karim's song unbanned. Okay, let me see if I can take a few more stories from the Nigerian Tribune. Nigeria attracted over 5 billion naira in new gas-related investments in 12 months. President, Nigeria Gas Association. And the last one I'll be taking, presidency says no new revelations as U.S. court orders FBI, DEA to release records on Tinubu's investigations. Now, a quick look at the Punch newspaper now. The biggest story on the front page of the Punch newspaper has to do with the Rivers State issue. Battle for Rivers. AGF moves to defend Tinubu as PDP governors mobilize 11 SANs. And Rider, Fagbemi drafts Supreme Court response. PDP berates President. Ibas Tompolo hints on Fubara's return. And still another court case now. Autonomy. 774 local governments challenge FG states in court Tuesday. And one of the cap headlines on the front page of the Punch newspaper says that Abdul Karim's anti-Tinubu song gains streams as Soyinka slams NBC, page 14, as that story. Presidency dismisses U.S. court order on Tinubu. Article differs. FG rolls out flood preparedness campaign in 30 high-risk states. I tell you, the newspapers are quite loaded this morning. Looking at the front page of the Guardian newspaper, label laments high cost of living braces for wage renegotiation. Interesting.
Interesting is the word that actually came to my mind.
Interesting. Labor bracing up for another renegotiation on wage increment. Moving away from that, 2027, ADP admits gang up to unseat Tinubu as Uzodinma dismisses coalition. Nothing new to reveal. Presidency dismisses U.S. court on Tinubu's drug case. And Ali Undume is in the news this morning. Undume raises alarm over renewed Boko Haram attacks in Borno, seizure of local government areas. You know, the governor was in the news last week. He held a press conference where he addressed the members of the press and some security chiefs, saying that his state is losing the grip of his state to renewed Boko Haram attacks.
Yeah, a resurgence of insecurity.
And Ali Undume reacted to what Zulum said. But we will talk about that in the course of this program too. Uriwa condemns systematic dismantling of democratic structures in Rivers. And a quick one, Jega fault varsities over rash of honorary awards to unworthy characters. That is one story we need to look into. You see people getting honorary awards from different universities, and you begin to question the reasons behind such things.
Beyond that, there was a convocation somewhere last week, thereabout, and there were 69 first-class graduates, and that's not a new thing. I mean, it's all over the place now.
Okay, it's 9:44 on 939 Solutions FM. Let's go straight to the stories one after the other now. I'd like to talk about the first story, which has to do with the U.S. court making this order. What is this story all about? I mean, talking about this, why is it generating kind of a jittery in some quarters?
Well, it is news because you will recall that during the electioneering, there was so much about this that Atiku especially, went to U.S. courts demanding that some documents be made available and all of that. But those documents were not made available. And what is, some people went to court. This is a 2023 lawsuit, by U.S. Transparency Advocate Greenspan under the Freedom of Information Act. He alleged that that guy alleged that FBI, Drug Enforcement Agencies, IRS, and all of them, they failed to disclose records relating to Tinubu and other individuals allegedly associated with the heroin trafficking and money laundering network in Chicago in the early 90s. And of course, in a civil indictment, the president is on record to have forfeited a sum of maybe $400,000. But that was not a criminal issue. It was a civil
issue.
Forfeiture. But people are saying that, all of this has to do with issues bordering on questionable issues. Let me put it like that, and let me label it inappropriately. And that these are moral questions, you understand, and that there are moral weights around the president's neck. They were, but you see, you have to establish liability. Not only liability, you have to establish criminal liability. I don't think it is anything new. I don't think
it is actually not new, because the presidency is even saying that nothing new in FBI. But the
documents that will be made available now, would they establish anything?
Could they be indicting in one way or the other?
You see, if there was criminal liability, you trust that system. The system will have gone after him. You trust the system. I mean, if there was criminal liability, and even if there was any criminal liability, as long as it was settled as a civil matter, that is a closure.
Okay. All right, maybe let's put that issue at rest and keep our fingers crossed and see what will come out when the report is eventually made public. Okay, moving away from that now, let's talk about this one coming from NACSIMA. And talking about NACSIMA, the full meaning is National Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NACSIMA. And that association is coming out to say that economic instability, job losses, forex inflow loom. I mean, what do you make out of this thing coming from the NACSIMA?
NACSIMA is basing this basically around the new tariff. 14% tariff imposed by the United States on Nigerian imports. And that will include oil and gas exports, including every stuff that we export to the United States. You know, we do a lot of food, you know. People are exporting food, you understand? A lot of it to the United States. And of course, when there is a tariff, 15%, naturally it will pass to the consumers. And when there is a 15%, that's almost a fifth, a fifth. If I was buying it for $100, then maybe I will now be buying it for, I'll be buying it for $115. And, so, these are the things that can lead to reduction in volume of sales. And when it leads to reduction in the volume of sales, you and I know that if I had employed 100 people and my volume of sales goes down by 15, 20, sometimes it might be higher than that, leads to, loss of revenue around 20, 25, 30%, you understand? In the very first instance, things are just going to slow down instantly so badly that it might affect businesses, loss of jobs, because, and of course, inflow of FX that is so critical to Nigeria. And putting all of this together, that's why NACSIMA is saying all of this. And what is the response? Is there any response?
But this is not the first time NACSIMA has been coming out. NACSIMA started coming out sometime mid last year, talking about the power and this when the MPS, or what is it called? That the
authority.
The increase in
interest
rate.
Yeah.
Interest rate. They came out to end nothing.
Charges and all of that.
And all those things.
Yes, NACSIMA is a critical part of the organized private sector, and they have different departments that work with data, active data, not the government data that dates back. They have active data. To the last quarter, to the last month, they have active data, and this is what they are making their projections based on. The projections are based on this active data that they have. So it is not about doomsday it is not prediction. They are not predicting, you understand? They are projecting based on available data. So people, that's why you never see government responding and say they are naysayers, it's a doomsday prediction and all of that. Government would rather keep quiet because they know they are working with active data. So it's not a prediction about doomsday and all of that. So that it is to raise our consciousness and make everybody aware that this is what is at hand and this is how it is going to affect everybody. So what would be the response of government? You understand? Of course, they just don't do these things. They also offer viable alternatives. Not just criticisms. They offer viable alternatives in this circumstance. And I think it concerns each and every one of us, because whatever concerns the economy generally is likely to have a ripple effect that will touch you and I.
Okay, now because we're talking about something that has to do with the economy, let me link it with this story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, which is actually the biggest story on the front page of the Guardian this morning. It says, Labour laments high cost of living, braces for wage renegotiation. What do you make out of that?
Something additional that I want to say about what NACSIMA just said is now, regarding foreign exchange inflow, you can also put in the mix the downward spiral of the price of crude in the spot market. Now, How will that pan out in Nigeria? You know, high cost of living. We are likely, if there is no conspiracy against the people, because we're likely to see a downward trend in the price of PMS. I expect it to go further down this week because of what is happening in the global tariff war.
Definitely.
Instigated by the United States, specifically President Trump. And if it stays at 60, 62, 3, and even if it goes, yes, Nigeria is going to lose revenue. But, well, the thing is that it has to reflect positively. In fact, marketers of PMS are already saying that we should have PMS in the region of 500 or thereabout. But another factor, critical, is the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar. Because I keep telling people, the price of PMS has not changed from May 23. It is the exchange rate that shot it up. If you divide, we were at 400 and 420 and thereabout. We're at 1,600 now. That's multiplied by 4. Just divide 900 or 930 that we're buying fuel now by 4. How much are we going to get? We're going to be in the region of 210 or 2. It's not even going to be 250. So the price of PMS remains the same. It is the exchange rate that has put it in that location.
Okay. Now, react to Labour bracing up for another wage renegotiation.
I like the way it has been put, wage renegotiation. Is it realistic? How many states are paying currently? And we're talking about governments now. Our organized private sector is paying. That is organized private sector. And how much more of this can organized private sector bear?
Even before you go to the organized private sector, as last week, you and I were on this program talking about 20 states who are yet to pay the new 70,000 naira minimum wage.
When we were watching one governor this morning, the only thing that kept running back and forth in my mind was that this is the same state that just started paying 30,000 last month. And when he said the wage bill of his state is 5 billion, and it was running around my head that your state's wage bill is around 20-something billion. You understand? I mean, you can now imagine what is being done here and what they're doing there and in other spaces in this country. He said 5 billion is the wage bill. I said, your state's wage bill is 25-something billion. You understand? And they're not paying. I can't understand.
So how realistic is what the organized labor is trying to brace up again?
I do not understand. Because, you see, when you are talking about state organized private sector, what about the informal sector? What is being paid, the attendant at the PMS station? Are they paying 70,000?
And even talking about this Nigeria, this organized labor, what are they doing concerning the plight of workers in those 20 states that their governors are yet to say anything on the implementation of the 70,000 minimum wage?
I kept asking, and they promised. Labour promised. I remember they promised that this fight will go down to the states. And we're not hearing any fight.
We're not hearing anything.
What is happening to the labor union, NLC, and the TUC? That is what people say. That even the leadership, are they fighting even on behalf of the workers from whom they get their check of pay? Because the labor people have told us that, they don't fight for the Nigerian people. They fight for...
Now, with all that has played out now, do you see Nigerian workers still having confidence in the Nigerian Labour Congress and the TUC?
That went up in smoke many years back. I think since the days of...
What went up in smoke?
Confidence.
The confidence.
Oh, yes. Since the days of Asaram Mole, when Asaram Mole showed up in the villa, when Abasojo was re-elected, and it was there with him. Labour leader, cutting the cake.
I remember that
was the beginning of the loss of confidence. And they say, why did you do
But
that?
as a Labour leader, was there anything wrong in being at that event to cut cake? Talking about Adams Oshomole then.
Which cake? Cake for what?
So it was a celebration.
What was they celebrating? I mean, a Labour leader. That's taking sides openly. And they say, why did you do that? He said, so that they won't brand him as a saboteur that He wants to truncate
Now,
democracy.
now, with this in the news now, some people will say organized labor is a huge joke. Trying to, as in bracing up for renegotiation for a new age, for a new wage.
I think they just want to be, in a location where there will be people, they will be in the news. All of this, you check it out. I remember that TUC chair in Oyo State at the point told me that and showed me evidence that they had to take on NLC, that NLC was taking action without consulting TUC, and then we'll ask TUC to come along. And they wrote, and I have a copy of the letter, that don't take decisions and expect us to join you. I mean, we are stakeholders, and we must take decisions jointly. We have had a lot of drama from that guy. What was his name? Joe Jairo. Yeah, we have had a lot of drama from him. Don't read that. The guy might have political.
He might have a political.
So I'm not suspecting.
Why would you suspect him on that?
His tendencies.
And if a Labour leader seems to be tilting into politics, will that not affect his kind of credibility?
Labour
in the face of what Nigerian workers.
Labour endorsed Obi in 2023. Have you forgotten? Labour endorsed Obi, and they're about trying to take over the party now itself. You know they're still in the thick of that.
Definitely.
I suspect this guy now.
Okay. It's 2 minutes to 10 on Solutions 93.9 FM. It's from the Dailies. Now let's go to another story. And this particular story is one that has been generating a lot of controversies and reactions since last week. Idris Abdul Karim is a Nigerian singer. He came out with a song, a controversial song titled Tell Your Papa. And a few days after the song was released, the NBC, National Broadcasting Commission, placed a ban on that particular song, that it shouldn't be heard on any media house. But Wale Soyinka came out and reacted. He joined the league of other Nigerians that have reacted to that banning of the song by the National Broadcasting Commission. Now, let me read the account on the front on Vanguard newspaper. Wale Soyinka slams NBC for banning Idris Abdul Karim's song. Let me try to read that story. Nobel laureate Professor Wale Soyinka blasted the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, for banning Idris Abdul Karim's song against President Bola Tinubu's government. And taking it further, Soyinka describes the development as a return to the culture of censorship and a threat to the right to free expression. Now, I want to read the quote according to the statement from Wale Soyinka. Courtesy of an artist operating in a different genre, the cartoon. Okay, the cartoon. Who sent me his recent graphic comment on the event? I learned recently of a return to the culture of censorship with the banning of the product of a music artist, Idris Abdul Karim. Okay, still reading Soyinka's statement. It cannot be flouted. That surely is basic. This is why I feel that we should look on the bright side of any picture and thus recommend the Aleshin Lawyer cartoon and others in allied vein as an easy top apprehend, easy to digest summation of the wisdom of attempting to stifle unpalatable works of art or socio-political commentary. You know, we all know Wale Soyinka for his big grammars and everything. But in essence, he's saying that it's a return to the era of culture of a censorship and a threat to the right to free expression. But the man in question, Idris Abdul Karim, he granted an interview. He said he never attacked the president. That song was inspired by Sheyi Tinubu's comment. Remember, there was an event that Sheyi Tinubu was addressing Nigerian youths, and he started saying, eulogizing his father. Maybe I should take let's listen to what Sheyi Tinubu said at that event that prompted Idris Abdul Karim to respond to that.
Some people, they're coming to develop their states and raise the IQ of the state and now trying to tell us what party we should move to. Young Nigerian them more. Every single day, minister is going to tell me don't politicize this. It was never politics. But they keep coming for me. They keep coming for my family. They keep coming for your father. They keep coming for Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the greatest president in the history of Nigeria. The only president that has carried young people along from when he was governor to when he became president. The only president that considered youth and student loans. The only president that's created platforms for young people to thrive. The only president that has created an economy that benefits everybody. The only president that's not trying to enrich his own pocket. And you're telling me, no.
Okay, that was the event where Sheyi Tinubu, the president's son, was eulogizing his father as the greatest president that Nigeria ever had. And Idris Abdulkarim was on an interview and he said that statement from Sheyi Tinubu inspired the song. Let's take a listen at Idris Abdulkarim's comment on that.
Okay, I was inspired by Sheyi Tinubu, to record this song, I saw a video where he was campaigning for his father and he was defending his father, saying that my father is the best president, my father is the greatest president. They are coming for my father, they are coming for my father. My father is the greatest president, my father is the greatest president. He repeated it like 5 times or 7, but Sheyi, I differ, because you look more perfect, when you are silent than when you speak. I would advise, Sheyi to hand over the microphone to the MC next time. He lacks the charisma and purpose to express himself, telling the truth about, the true economic situation of Nigeria at the moment under his father's government. Tinubu is the best father to Sheyi Tinubu, but he's the worst president to Nigeria. You know what I mean? He has empowered Sheyi Tinubu as a son, but Nigerian youth don't have jobs, talk less of food to eat. The Nigerian youth can travel by road, because of kidnapping, So I asked Sheyi Tinubu to travel by road, without insecurity, let him feel the pains, of ordinary citizens, Nigerian youth are just asking for basics, electricity, security, enabling economic policy, job creation, not palliatives. So I keep hearing people saying that why should I attack Sheyi Tinubu personally? If Sheyi Tinubu came to be part of politics, he talks about his father. He was defending his father. If he never talked about it, I wouldn't have recorded a song like that. So I am answering him, by, replying him with that video that he made. So if Sheyi had kept quiet, I wouldn't have said anything directly to him. So that's it, my brother. So I'm inspired by Sheyi Tinubu to record that song. Tinubu lied about fuel subsidy, lied about economic recovery, lied about fixing the naira, lied about a lot of things, So it's a sad situation. And it's my responsibility to say it the way it is. If you listen to the song, there's nowhere you hear any insult. It's just basic fact of everything that his father has done through his policy.
Idris Abdulkarim there, granting an interview on a live TV. Now, what do you make out of that?
Yeah, well, I find all of this quite interesting, honestly. The guy released a song. He's not doing it for the first time. He did Nigeria Jaga Jaga. And this time around, I haven't filled us in with what Sheyi said. You see, some things, it is not about what you say. Sometimes it is more about how you say it. And of course, that as a man in this business of communication, that they say communication actually constitutes what constitutes verbal communication is just 15% of communication itself. So if verbal communication constitutes only 15% of communication, so that means there's a whole lot more to communication than the things you say verbally. So that means you have 85% left. Your body language, constitutes is constituted by your eyes, the way you move your body and all of that. So the way the man went about what he was saying, actually, believe you me, I had to concentrate more on his body language, because when I listened to the words, I said, okay, how does what's the body language saying and all of that. Now, what did he do? The guy said he was responding. He was responding
to what Sheyi said at that event.
Responding is process.
Okay.
What NBC, or what do they call them, did just now about the song is a reaction. And
there's a difference between reaction and responding.
A reaction is just, you just say, what is that? And you do something about it without processing it. And what did NBC say? NBC said inappropriate, use the words inappropriate and objectionable. These are words that you can just, it is neither here nor there. Inappropriate, objectionable. And then they went to quote, of course, for quite a while now, since the days of what do you call that man, Lai Mohammed, that NBC had tried or some hanky-panky, and they were going to even, there was a bill in the National Assembly that newspapers and everything must be registered until, everybody rose up and said, what the heck is that? And what do you call that man? Lai Mohammed was comparing Nigeria to China. And people were saying, what are you talking about? Nigeria is a democracy, even if nothing else. How can you compare us to China? And there is no X in China. There is no Instagram and all of that in China. So, you see, people should understand that they are not serving government. NBC is not to serve. It is Nigeria Broadcasting Commission. It is
National Broadcasting.
It is National Broadcasting. People should look beyond. It is the same thing that NYSC did to that girl. You recall, just a few weeks back. The girl, yes, there are rules that govern, but in some circumstances, you have to look beyond the rules. Okay, when Showore and the lawyers went to the local government where the girl was having, why didn't they wait? They ran away. And then look at what happened in when the wife of the president went to Delta.
And I remember Showore even said that the lady, the copper was called on the phone. That there was a particular lady on record that called that was threatening the lady, the copper to
bring it up.
Showore said the lady eventually came and knelt down and started begging. At the event, and Showore said he was wondering that he was expecting the same energy she used on the phone with the copper.
You see,
to talk
what
to
she
them.
did was reaction, not response. If they process the whole thing and look at the bigger picture, look at what happened when the president's wife went to
Delta, that the nursing school.
Look at the way the media team of the president's wife responded. That was a response. They said what those children did was within their rights and their
when the school was about to take
the state government issued them
a strong action on them,
and they were warned that don't try it, don't complicate matter. Then the government.
Okay, that's a response.
That is a response. Then you process things. The reaction, the school issued them query. You understand? And those who saw the bigger picture say, want to create problems for us. Of course, the children, you are thinking so they don't align with it, and then you say, is it criminal? No, it's not criminal. Now, is it disrespectful? Well, you might say anything about that, but you can't force them to. So these are the things you say it's inappropriate and objectionable. Objectionable to who?
Like Wole Soyinka said, Professor
Objectionable
Wole
to who?
Soyinka, he said it's a kind of a way of gagging Nigerians
Of
and
course, it is gagging. And
shutting Nigerians' mouth and
how can you objectionable to who? And what did the guy say? Is there anything particularly offensive? The guy is sharing experiences of Nigerians from the perspective of okay, as Nigerians, have you had any Nigerian say something bad about the song? Have you had any Nigerian?
Interestingly, the guy is smiling to the banks now
He's
because
smiling to the banks.
Nigerians became more curious to want to know the content.
Yes.
Actually, I didn't listen to the song too until I heard it banned by the NBC. Then I took time to listen to the words of it, and I
Tell
was
your
like,
papa that it is not what it is.
that it is not what it is that you said at the
In your own
event.
perspective,
It is not what it is. This is the
it is
clear
not.
picture.
It is a picture. So what is objectionable about that? Very funny. Government officials sometimes, they should understand that they are not serving governors. They are serving government. And when you are serving government, you are serving the people. It is a disservice. It is. They should see
For
the
somebody
light
like
of
Wole
day.
Soyinka to even come up and say,
Yes,
no,
now.
this is wrong.
And Wole Soyinka, I think something happened a few weeks back too, and he said some things about the president or the presidency. The man is back in his elements, even in his 90s.
In his night. All right, it's still from the Dailies on Solutions 93.9 FM. Let's go on this commercial break. We will be right back.
Unstoppable you, fueling your vitality the whole day through. Embrace each challenge with renewed might. With Supermalt, your performance takes flight.
With 20 essential vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, one Supermalt multivitamin after breakfast every day keeps you going.
Supermalt, unstoppable you.
True strength. What defines it? The brilliance of a player, or when a team comes together to win. A solo beat, or the rhythm of many. The flair of one dancer, or the art of a troupe. One distinct voice, or the beauty of the symphony. At FCMB Group, we build ecosystems, empower communities, and create the future. Because we believe it's not just one, but the power of the group that delivers the future we all desire. FCMB, the power of the group.
Talk tí ò lẹ́lẹ́gbẹ́. Ṣí ayọ̀ tú ìtọ́wò sílẹ̀. Ṣé ó jẹ́ pẹ̀lú Terra Cubes? Ṣé ó jẹ́ pẹ̀lú Terra?
Is the dial.
All right, you're welcome back from that short commercial break. It's still from the Dailies on Solutions, the 93.9 FM. Now to other stories, and another story that caught my attention is this one coming from Ali Undume. Senator Ali Undume from Borno State, and he raised the alarm. Let me read it as it is being put in the papers. Undume raises alarm over renewed Boko Haram attacks in Borno and seizure of local government areas. And I remember on this program last week too, we played a statement from the sitting governor of Borno State, that is Babagana Zulum, saying that he held a press conference and he said that truly Boko Haram has taken over the state. Now, Undume has come out to support what Zulum said. And Senator Ali Undume, had this to say on a live TV.
Here, I'm worried. I told you sometimes back, remember when this Wadirko was attacked and where we lost a major in Damboa,
Yeah.
So these things, and then last time they attacked Sabongari, displaced them, the governor called an emergency meeting of the expanded security. And what the governor said there is true. And he's so worried about it. He also came there just yesterday and called another emergency meeting for us to go and see those service chiefs. We visited the chief of army staff, we visited the chief of naval staff, we visited
Chief of Air Staff.
chief of air staff, we visited minister of works, and then he visited, that is after that, because it was evening and I was fasting, we had to excuse. He also visited Minister of Planning, all in the same day. Today, he went back. That was what brought him. And he called us and said, look, this thing is getting out of hand. What do we do? Let's go and talk to these service chiefs to see whether they can up their game to see where. And this, to be honest with you, they are trying. But let me give you a sad thing that comes out of this. After the governor and our 8 emirs, all the service chiefs agreed that there is the need for him to come here, talk to those that matters in the area of security about the situation in Borno and the relapse and such. And then the minister somewhere was saying that Nigerians should ignore Zulum. I felt very bad.
He said he did.
And this is part of what I call where you have kakitocrats in the system. If somebody knows what he's doing as a minister, he should be able to run to Zulum and ask for what he can do to assist him, not to just sit down in his comfort. And in fact, I even understand that he's out of the country when he issued that statement that the governor should be ignored. How can you ignore the chief security officer of the state?
Senator Ali Undume there reacting to, or let me say, supporting what the governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, said concerning him losing the grip of the state to insurgents, and he mentioned Boko Haram insurgents.
Well, I was actually frankly looking for the statistics. And I think you read the statistics out actually some time back. In the past 1 year, we have heard, I must say that it is not just a resurgence of insurgency in Borno, it is a resurgence of insecurity nationwide. The report you read the other day said that in the past 1 year, 600 and something thousand Nigerians have been
killed, yeah.
Kidnapping has yielded 2-something million people have been kidnapped. Kidnapping
about
has yielded
trillions of naira have been paid in ransom.
So it is not just a resurgence of insurgency in Borno State. It is a resurgence of insecurity nationwide. You know the report that is coming in from Plateau in the past 1 month. Death, destruction, maiming, killing, economic ruins that people have been put into. But Borno, in the northeast, has been the home, the epicenter of Boko Haram since 2009. And the kind of war that is ongoing there, the kind of insurgency that is going on there, the way the war is being fought, the Nigerian army is fighting it in its own way, which is the usual, designated battle zone. You fight, you overcome, you move forward. But of course, the people you are fighting, they don't have the capacity that you have. They don't have a standing army of 100,000 that they can deploy. But they will fight in small groups of deploying 100 people. And how are they moving around? They're moving around on bikes. They're moving around in those Hilux vehicles. Very light, very, very mobile. Rocket launchers. You are going around in APCs and those heavy, with those heavy guns and all of that. But the challenge now is that they can always ambush. You understand? They can ambush, they can outflank, and then let me tell you the big problem. If the military takes a location, they cannot stay there. They have to move forward. Now, when they secure a location from the terror groups and they have to move forward, who occupies that space? The fact is that when you hear of ungoverned spaces
Yes.
in Nigeria, 75% of it is in the northern parts of Nigeria. When the military, the work of the military is to secure, liberate. But when they liberate, governance must occupy that space. When I say governance, civil authority, it starts with the police.
But comrade, when we talk about these ungoverned spaces, there are a lot of them in the northern part.
Yeah.
And most of these places are not habitable.
When you say ungoverned, it does not mean that you cannot keep an eye on it.
But they are not habitable. So why? I'm just wondering what
Who
was.
says?
I mean, looking at the conditions, some
They
of
are
them
not
are
habitable like cities, like having power supply,
That's
like
what I'm
having
saying.
water
That's
supply.
what I'm saying.
But if you have sinister motives, you can stay there.
That's why the bandits and the likes are making use of those places.
So why don't on my phone? Not that I installed any gadget in my house. I can see my house as I'm seated here. My house. I can see my house. Not that I install. I mean, if I can do that, why can't we, as a nation, you understand, electronic surveillance? When Buhari was president, I was sad. The man said, Nigeria's border is about 1 million square kilometers. He said only God can guide our borders. I said, what kind of people are we putting in office? If our president, our leader, is thinking like this, and he's not only thinking like that, he's opening his mouth to say only God can guide our borders.
But now there are people put in charge of security, like Ali Ndume said in that statement, in that clip we listened to. He accused the Minister of Defense of doing nothing. That the Minister of Defense actually came out and said that what Zulum said should be disregarded.
He cannot accuse the Minister of Defense of doing nothing. When he accuses the Minister of Defense of doing nothing, he's accusing the entire defense apparatus of Nigeria.
But we heard him say that.
Well, that is the implication. If he says the Minister of Defense is doing nothing.
He said that what Zulum said last week should be disregarded, saying that
Those are politicians talking.
Okay.
Those are politicians talking.
So their words shouldn't be taken.
Which should be scrutinized.
Okay.
Look, are the commander, is the army not doing anything? Is the Nigerian Army, Nigerian Air Force, the commanders out there on the field, is this suggesting that they are doing nothing?
Okay.
No, it cannot be. But you see, what do they have to work with? What is the operational, environment? Are they being paid their allowances? What is the allowance that they have to be operating there? Is it getting to them? Are they getting it on time? You understand? And then what are they working with? And then let me tell you all of this. Everything in security is underpinned by intelligence.
And just to add to what you said now, you said, do they have enough equipment to fight all those things? But even if they were being provided with all the things they need, we can't rule out the fact that, because we've had some cases of these insurgents or the insurgency infiltrating the military, that even there are some people that leak the military tactics and their operations
That is why
to
you
the
have
insurgents.
those ambushes.
So even if the federal government supplies all they need, how do they
if
wipe
there
out
is
this internal?
So what is happening to the intelligence agencies? Can they fish out those who are compromising them? And then you hear what they call the political will. You and I have to ask ourselves what the political will is. And so those who are funding insurgency were apprehended and tried and convicted in Dubai. In Dubai, there was a list making the rounds openly. This same Dubai too was apprehended, I think, at a point in time for whether hosting or funding insurgency. Now, is the intelligence community without information about all of this? Or does everything boil down to political will? Okay. You remember in the days of Buhari, in the days of Jonathan, Buhari was one of those who came out that they were killing their people. In fact, a chief of army staff was almost prosecuted and taken to the International Criminal Court.
Well, another issue is, do we have enough men in the force?
Believe you me, sometimes it's not even about the numbers, the mobility.
Okay.
What kind of war are they fighting? It's not the regular war where battle lines are delineated. No, the battle lines are not delineated.
They are
and
within.
that's the most dangerous war to fight. That means you must have cover. You understand? And when I say cover, you have air cover, and then you have electronic surveillance cover. So that somebody is covering you, that the enemy is coming, from a location. These guys in a band of 50, they're in hillocks, three of them are on a bike. Somebody is riding, two of them rocket launcher. They're mobile. Swiftly, they hit and run. When the army gets to a location, they will set up camp, build fence, build tents, install the radio. Those guys don't do that.
They don't do that.
They don't do that. They don't do that. They just hit and run.
They are like 5 steps ahead of.
So I mean, that's the situation we're dealing with. So when you're going to be dealing with that, you don't have to reconfigure and reorganize the way they fight this war.
Okay, let me link this story before we wrap up. I want us to talk about 2 stories before we wrap up today. Now, Army decries poor Igbo youths enlistment in military service. I would have loved to read the story, but just let's talk about it in 2 minutes. Saying the Nigerian Army decries poor Igbo youths that the Igbo youths are not enlisted.
So what is the army itself doing about encouraging them?
But I spoke with some friends, and not even some years back, about because I noticed this too, that you hardly see Igbo youths enlisting in the Nigerian army. And those few people I spoke with said that they are Igbo generally, they are yet to recover from the Biafra, the way the Nigerian army treated the Biafrans and everything.
What does that mean? That was war. It was war treated.
So that kind of still they are yet to heal
I
from
can
that.
understand. You know too that in Yoruba land,
So I'm beginning to wonder: is that what is actually hindering them or discouraging them from going enlisting? Because you see more of the Northerners in the Nigerian army.
Yes, and you know that dates back. Look, in the North, there was an active campaign encouraged, if not actually instigated by the military, by the colonial masters. Because the colonial masters saw the army as an alternative to the political governance. And it turned out to be that way eventually. So, in Babangida's book, you recall that General Gawan was one of those people who were sent out. The young officers, they were sent to schools to encourage them, young guys, to go and join the army. In Yoruba land too, it wasn't particularly, people don't look at those who join the army as, particularly good people. You understand? But some people just loved it.
Hardly will you see a family in the North that doesn't have someone in
Yes,
the military.
and I think it is something that they do a lot. And it is not everybody that will be interested in that. You know, the Igbos are basically involved in
Business oriented and stuff like that.
business oriented. So in Yoruba land, commerce too.
Okay,
and,
maybe that is the
academics.
reason.
You understand? So if you even check the breakdown of the structure of the army, go and check the education corps. Who are the people there? You understand? Who are the people there? So I think it is just a cultural thing. But if the army wants to be fair, what are they actively doing to balance that? After all, that's what they call, what do they call that thing? That you must balance these things. Like the appointments of Tinubu that they're talking about. You have to, what do they call that commission? There's a commission that balances these things, that must ensure that these things are balanced. You understand? What is the army doing about that? I mean, it is mandatory that the army, it is a quota system. You understand?
Yeah.
If the army has 100% and then 50 goes to the north, and then 30 comes to the south, 30 comes to the southwest, and 20 goes to the southeast, they must compulsorily fill their quota, also, or else some other people will fill the quota.
Okay, now, before we wrap up this story now, in 2 minutes, Tairu Jega fought varsities over rush of honorary awards to unworthy characters. We've seen this played out in recent times.
Even when
people of questionable characters being awarded honorary degrees by this universities.
Even when they now award them the honoris causa, what you see, there are categories. Some will be awarded for their value addition to society. Some will be awarded for their value addition to the university specifically. What endowments are those people setting up? You can't just be handing out these things.
And there are insinuations that maybe some of these unworthy characters actually buy this.
Now, who are they paying? Is it the individuals heading the institutions, or they are Look, I may not even care. If you bring 2 billion naira and endow a chair, you understand? You are adding value to education. You understand? That might even cover your sin. You understand? That might even cover your sin. If you do whatever, and then you bring 1 billion, 2 billion to the university to endow a chair. Oh, I may not have any problem with that. There might be moral questions, but at least you are advancing the cause of knowledge. But for me, I think something is wrong. You know, I think it's a problem with titles. Okay, getting chief this, chief that now is easy. Maybe that one is more.
Now, what should these universities look at before awarding?
There is standard procedure. It is established. And it is not different from Lagos to Ibadan to New York to Pretoria. It is the same. That is why they call them university, because they are universal. What obtains in New York, what obtains in UCLA,
in Harvard,
in Yale, in Pretoria, is the one that must obtain in Ibadan, in Lagos, Calabar. That is why they are called universities. Universal. That is what they are. So the standards are not different.
Okay. All right, comrade, thank you very much. We've overstayed our time.
The Nigerian factor is applying here.
Nigerian factor, in what sense?
Is that what we call it?
Nigerian factor.
Have you not heard about the program I attended? It was supposed to start now. I got there 8:40 or 8:30.
It didn't start until...
And the earliest person, even the organizers came in at 9. I said, and they started talking about the African time. I said, really? So maybe the Nigerian factor.
Okay, comrade, thank you very much for being a part of the program this morning.
My pleasure, always riding with you.
All
Have a
right.
fruitful week.
Okay, that's the wrap for today. We will be back again tomorrow morning for a fresh edition of From the Dailies on Solutions 93.9 FM. My name is Adi Damola Lafenwa. Like I always say every Monday, let's go out there and make it a money-making Monday. Good morning once again.
The views and opinions expressed in this live broadcast are those of the participants and do not